Guys, it's Damien from Marketing Food Online, and tonight we're going to talk about cottage food business, a home-based food business in the state of Illinois. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to get into the cottage food business in the state of Illinois. I've had a lot of questions in regards to specifically the state of Illinois, actually. So I wanted to take a few moments and get into some information and relay that to you guys about how to get started from home selling your food or your food product. So let's run down really quick. Of course, if you are not subscribed to Marketing Food Online, hit that subscribe button and check out the nearly 400 videos that we have on our YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this on our podcast, we have dozens of podcasts. Podcast is actually relatively new for us, but we have a lot of great podcasts with great information about food business, how to get started either with a product or a food line, or even get on the internet and start a food business online selling food, or get into retail stores, or even to food service, pretty much anywhere and everywhere. A little bit about myself. I've been in the food business for almost about 30 years now. Started my own business, which was an Italian bakery. My wife and I started nearly 11 years ago, and then we transitioned to internet, e-commerce, and now we operate 6 stores online and have built multiple six-figure food businesses. So I've been doing this for quite some time. I've been online. I know everything I need to know about how to grow a business through e-commerce. So I bring that to you guys, and I want you guys to be successful as well, because the food business and the food industry online is growing huge by leaps and bounds. Over the past probably 5 or 6 years, it's gotten very intense with food. And you can start locally, as we did. We had the cottage food business as well, and got into local fairs and festivals, and we did some charity work too, and it was kind of fun doing some local stuff. And then we grew that business into a commercial business, and we're licensed, and we are really excited about the growth that we've had over the past few years. So let me get right into the state of Illinois. So really quick, something that a lot of people don't know about the state of Illinois, it actually had kind of 2 different laws. I'm not sure if the original older law is still on the books, but I know the newer one was updated. So the newer law is considered a quote-unquote home kitchen operation, and it used to be cottage food operations. So the newer law is a little bit more confined, almost like restrictive than the older one. But in regards to that, what you can make and what you can sell is a huge list of items and a great amount of products to choose from if you're looking to figure out what can I sell or what maybe would be great for me to sell. What I'm going to do, as always, down below in the description, just run this down really quick as well, there will be a link to some state websites that will give you more specific information. What I try to cover in my podcast and such is the general information about getting started and some things I recommend that you do. And then, of course, there are some things that you definitely have to do, okay? Number one, I always recommend you incorporate yourself. A lot of states don't require that, but incorporating yourself as a business and getting food producers insurance, which is definitely something that they do insure for home food businesses. Get yourself insured. The reason why you want to protect yourself, guys, to be honest with you, if you want to start this off as a hobby, that's great. You know, if you want to just make some things for your family and friends and you're handing out food, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to get into a business and you are transacting, you're creating transactions where people are paying for products and you're delivering it to them or handing it to them in fairs and festivals and whatnot and different events, which traditionally cottage food businesses, that is the type of transaction you cannot sell through the internet. Some states, don't get me wrong, some states allow you to create a website to make the transaction, but you have to still deliver it. You can't ship it, okay? You still have to deliver it or have them meet you someplace where you're handing it directly to the customer, okay? Now, with that being said, as I mentioned, make sure you're incorporated, make sure you're insured. You want to protect yourself financially if you happen to have a situation where someone gets sick, and you want to have insurance for those types of things. If someone has an allergic reaction, whatever it may be, because it is potentially something that could happen. It doesn't always, trust me, but it's something that could. And you want to protect yourself. That's kind of just a no-brainer. Now, what can you make? Let's get into that. Number one, you cannot make potentially hazardous foods. This is a norm across the entire board of cottage food businesses. When you're preparing food from home, you're legally not allowed to produce potentially hazardous products, things that have to be kept at a certain temperature or have a time-sensitive situation to it. So if it is a food product that can expire without being kept at a certain temperature, that would be potentially hazardous product. So the list for Illinois is actually quite extensive, like most states. It's going to be items like, say, cookies and scones, cakes and biscuits and breads, rolls and brownies and bagels, muffins and such, baked candies, if you're doing candy, brittles and things, herbs, tea leaves, pies, pastries. But again, pies and pastries, you want to stay away from things that have cheese in them that are obviously a refrigerated item. That's the temperature sensitive that we just talked about. Anything that has meat in it too, you want to stay away from that. Hamburgers and pies, whatever that may be, of any type of meat and such, stay away from that. Okay. Now, preserves, jams and jellies, yes, you can do that. Fruit butters, you can do that, and other preserves you can do. But you want to, again, find out specifically what types of ingredients, and that's where those links I'll give you down below will be much more descriptive about the types of ingredients that you can put in them. Because there is a pH, there's an issue of acidity, and then there's pH levels. And some states really regulate that to make sure that it's either been checked by an agency or the recipe has been looked at or something to the effect of how is your process working, how are you actually creating it. Because pHs can vary and bacteria can grow very fast with those types of items. So let's see, what else do we have here? Now, it's only direct sales. As I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that you're actually giving it directly to the end user. And mainly what that means is that you can't have a third party. So a grocery store, if you produce a product and a grocery store buys it from you and then they in turn and sell that to a customer, that is a third party. That is someone that is between you and the final end user. That is traditionally not allowed. And in the state, of course, of Illinois, it's not allowed as well. Now, some states, they're very limited. I think it's only about a half a dozen. Allow you to create a website to make the sale. What that means is you can create, let's say, susiescookies.com, and you can create a website and make the sale online, but it has to be against somebody in your state that you have to deliver it to. You can't ship it in the mail. You can't do mail order. You'd have to get yourself into a commercial facility or some type of commercial licensed or setting for that to happen. Okay, that's not considered a cottage food transaction. Now, do I have to register with the health department or anything like that? Yeah, you must. You must register with the health department before you're selling cottage foods under the law. And usually the fees for that, to do so for that, is about $25 to $45 in some states. Illinois is around the $30 price point. It's not very expensive, and I believe it's annual, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something that you must renew. Okay. So also the Food Service Sanitation Management Certificate. Okay. You must take a class and receive the Food Service Sanitation Manager certification, and that's from the health department, which takes about 8 hours to complete, and it costs about $40. Okay, what does that cover? Well, it's just basically covering the cleanliness of how you operate that food kitchen. Okay, and they're going to want to make sure you understand how you clean properly products that are being used, such as bowls, or equipment, not products. Equipment, smallwares like spoons and knives and things, they have to be cleaned in a certain way to make sure that we limit or actually minimize any type of potential for people to get sick. Now, there are certain labeling requirements. When it comes to cottage food businesses, there is a certain type of information that needs to be put on it. Okay, number one, allergens, of course, has to be on there. Okay, the 6 major food allergens for the cottage food operator, of course, you want to make sure that it has a label that says produced in a kitchen that contains, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that would be milk and eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, and wheat. Okay, you want to make sure that you list those on your label, and that helps also to protect you too. Now, the business address. Now, this is actually considered your home will be technically your business. If you've got a cottage food business from home, that is your business address. So your home address needs to be on there. You can't use like a P.O. box or some type of other sub-address where it's like a commercial kitchen where you make it and you bring it back home and try to sell it. No. It needs to have your business address. The reason being is that it's a term called traceability. You want to make sure that if something goes wrong with the product, someone gets sick or something to that effect, they have a traceability. They want to know where did it come from. And then from there, they can go deeper and say, well, where did you get the ingredients? How did you make it? Et cetera, et cetera. So your business name needs to be on there too. So believe it or not, like I mentioned before, you want to incorporate yourself as a business. If it's Sarah's Cookies, that's fine. Then put Sarah's Cookies as the name of the business, okay? Or, Delicious Cookies from whatever. Whatever the name is, you need to have it on there, and that's your business name. The date it's produced. This is important because if you are selling it at a local event, you obviously are making something fresh. You're probably not using preservatives, right? If you're making a jam or a jelly, there may have a cookie or something, or even a cake, let's say, or muffins. You normally don't put, in a home kitchen, you're not putting preservatives because there's not a shelf life. So they need to know when was it produced. Ingredients must be listed from the highest weight to the lowest, okay? You may list sub-ingredients, they're known as. And those they can be put into parentheses after the ingredient. Every ingredient must be listed. So if you're using a commercial product, right, you're bringing together ingredients to create another final product, simply list that item on your label and copy its ingredients. So if you're like using Hershey's chocolate chips, okay, whatever the ingredient to produce the chocolate chip, make sure that is on your label, okay? If it's cocoa and the entire list of ingredients from that packaging to create the chocolate chip that you put in your cookie, that needs to be on there, okay? You can't just put chocolate, okay? So now also the product name. If you created a name for the product, you should put that on there as well. And that traditionally, that's actually on the front label. So if it's, Sarah's Amazing Cookies, then put Sarah's Amazing Cookies. And that would need to predominantly be on the front label. You can traditionally have two labels, one on the front of your package and then one on the back, okay? And then one last thing, you need to have a statement. It's known as a disclaimer. And this statement basically states that your product is being produced, the item that your customer is purchasing is actually being produced in a home kitchen that is not inspected. Traditionally, it's an uninspected kitchen, okay? Some states do have inspections, and they're done like every 6 months. Some don't inspect it on a regular basis, and every state's a little different. Now, with that being said, you need to also be aware of this. Every state has laws on the books about cottage food businesses. Now, when it trickles down into the county and local municipalities, counties and cities and counties can add to those laws. That's why I urge you to check with your county and city and find out what other specific laws do they dictate to you that will allow you or prevent you from having a home-based food kitchen, okay? A lot of people don't understand it. They note, oh, you know what, the state has this and this and this, and then I went ahead and started my business, and then I got in trouble or something. Because the city and the county was unaware of it or whatever it may be. So understand that the city and county can create other ordinances or additional laws to cottage food businesses, okay? Now, in the state of Illinois, under this new law, you want to make sure at the point of sale, you want to make sure that you've got what's known as a placard. You got to have kind of a plaque, so kind of like a little bit of information. It could be on a 8x11 paper, but kind of posted upright. You put it in a frame or something. But you want to make sure that you're letting your customers know at the point of sale where they're actually purchasing and where your register is, that the product is produced, again, in a home kitchen and it's not subject to inspections. Because you want to make sure that your customers are aware that it's not coming from a commercial kitchen. Okay, and then that's their choice. Once they've been kind of informed, if you will, that will let them make an informed decision. Okay. So now some of the events and venues that are prohibited, you want to actually not go. Let me pull up my other page here, my little notes. Okay, all right, so back to what I was saying. I'm sorry, I was just looking at some notes I had written down here. So what are some of the other, I wanted to get more in depth into about what is the type of foods that you can produce and what you cannot. So some of the things that you cannot, and this may cover quite a bit. You want to do canned foods, acidic vegetables and such, leafy greens and cut tomatoes, melons and dehydrated tomatoes, frozen cut melons, meats and poultry, fish and seafood, shellfish. Any of that is not permitted to be produced under cottage food. You really need to be into a commercial setting, even a restaurant, to be able to produce those types. So now, so where, again, we want to get into where may a cottage food operation sell its products. So in Illinois, a cottage food operation may only sell those products at a farmer's market in Illinois, okay, unless the product meets the exception in the next paragraph, I'm going to read down a little bit more of information here on this website, that a farmer's market is defined traditionally as a facility, an area where the farmers gather fresh fruits or put together vegetables or locally produced farm or food products. Those are the places that are predominantly allowed to have products sold. It is really kind of limited, when I said it earlier in the beginning, limited in that way as far as the different places to have it. But you can still reach out to quite a few of these farmers markets and get an opportunity to experience running a food business from your home, and of course selling it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to conclude the podcast about this specific state of Illinois, and I'm going to add all of these resources down below. I'll give you an opportunity to kind of sit back and look at some of the information provided. There's a lot of great in-depth information. One other item that I wanted to cover was, how much are you able to sell? So that is a great question as far as the amount, the dollar amount. And what I see here, what you really want to stick with is the monthly gross sales, once all the other conditions, of course, are met and such. It says here that you don't want to exceed over $1,000 a month. So it looks like about $12,000. And if I'm mistaken by that, please do let me know down in the description. I'm checking the updated information for 2018 for the Cottage Food Operation Law from the state of Illinois, and it states that $1,000 gross sales. Okay, so you're actually going to net, your profit will probably be a lot less than that. But you definitely want to stick to that. And if I'm mistaken by that specific dollar amount, please do let me know. But check in the description, click on some of these links. I hope that this kind of gave you some great information, to at least to get understanding under your belt about how you can get going in Illinois. We have some fantastic resources as well. Check us out on marketingfoodonline.com in regards to cottage food businesses, and then transitioning into a commercial facility. So if you guys appreciated the video, as always, please do give me a big thumbs up. Let me know if you had any other questions down below, and I'll be happy to assist you as quick as possible. And I will see you guys, or hear me on my next podcast, or see me on my next video. Take care and have a good night.